Committee to order. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed by Chelmsford Telemedia and posted to the CPS website for interested community members to access and watch. Although we are not allowing for in-person public participation, interested community members were encouraged to submit their names and addresses to Superintendent Lang if they wanted to participate remotely under the public input portion of our meeting. During our public input session, anyone who's joined us through the GoToMeeting platform and expressed an interest in making a comment will be recognized by the superintendent and allowed to speak with the committee. If anyone watching this meeting live has questions or comments to share, they're encouraged to email one of us during the meeting. We'll read their questions or comments during our second public input session at the end of the meeting. So welcome to this meeting of Chelmsford School Committee. We have a couple of presentations this evening, so we're going to get started right away. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our meetings on April 27th and May 4th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular school committee meetings dated April 27th, 2021 and May 4th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, anybody have any corrections for the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approval? Aye. Okay, 5-0. Okay, let's see. No student reps?
Not this evening.
Okay. All right, so on to good news. Anyone have any good news they'd like to share?
I do.
Okay. Alrighty.
Get it up on my phone. From CHIPS, a big thank you to Mr. Andy Riga for his outdoor musical enrichment last week. Mr. Riga shared his musical expertise with the CHIPS students, wowing them with his bongo drum. Through a developmentally appropriate presentation on rhythm and drum beat, Mr. Riga kindly donated his time and his love of music. Mr. Riga, a Chelmsford alum, is also the owner of the Music Academy of Chelmsford and also at CHIPS on May 25th. Storyteller Joe will present an outdoor enrichment, once again in small groups throughout the day to ensure distancing. The CHIPS students and staff are thankful for the enrichment opportunities arranged by the PTO.
So we had the opportunity last week to speak with some of the high school kids joining the military. Mr. Aslam was there, Dr. Parks, Marcy Mason, and Becky, which I don't know her last name, but she's a police. Yeah, so we had to go in and speak with some of the kids just about some of the challenges they'll face joining the military, and just to give them some of the attention, that some of the college kids get, give them some advice, have a good conversation, let them ask questions. I think it was pretty successful. I think it was, and hopefully they took at least one or two of those bits of advice from the 5 adults talking at them. 5 kids showed up. Kids joining the Marines, kids going to different naval, someone's going to the Naval Academy, some joining the Army, one joining the Air Force. So pretty good group of kids, and I was really excited to do it.
That's great. Okay, anyone else? Okay. As you can see, we have some guests here tonight, so Dr. Hirsch is in socially distancing in the back room, so I have some good news she would like me to share. We have 2 visiting teachers from Spain that have signed on as CHS Spanish teachers, and we're looking forward to working with them next year. National English Honor Society induction will happen on June 3rd at 6 p.m. The Arts Department is preparing to release their second district-wide virtual art celebration with support from CTM. Grade 12 student Ethan M. will be celebrated in a dedication event at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts this Saturday for his Eagle Scout project, which is an interactive musical instrument sculpture. And then finally, 42 South Row students participated in the virtual science fair that was organized by the South Row School Council. Okay, anything else? Okay. I believe we have no public comment tonight?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll move on to new business.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Hey,
Tom.
well,
Oh,
I finally found it.
okay.
Mary Moriarty shared some good news with us. I guess the center school adopted the Table of Plenty last month, and the Table of Plenty is very grateful for their support. Their shelves are now restocked with lots of non-perishable items, and they were able to distribute last week 80 bags of groceries for our grab-and-go meal. And I guess we're very grateful. So thank you to the center school for all of their hard work on behalf of the Table of Plenty.
Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay, on to new business.
Thank you. Under new business tonight, the first item on the agenda, as we've talked about it, the last couple of school committee meetings, we're pretty deep in the hiring season. And we've hired a few new administrators to our district, and we have tonight Ms. Shannon Bischoff, who is going to be assuming the role of Coordinator of Social Emotional Learning and Counseling Services in the district. So I'm going to turn over to Amy to introduce Shannon and welcome her to Chelmsford.
Yeah, so I'm
Mike.
excited. So I'm excited tonight to introduce Shannon. She is joining us with an amazing background that will bring us with our SEL and school counseling position forward following our vision. Shannon is a social worker by trade and a school adjustment counselor in her early years working. And she's been a school administrator as an assistant principal, most recently in the Wachusett Regional District in an elementary school in Holden, Mass. So she's been working on her passion of social emotional learning there in that school and within the district to help with some initiatives. And so I'm going to turn it over to Shannon. She's also had some time as team chair. She knows Section 504, so she has a huge background, PBIS. So Shannon,
Yeah, well,
welcome.
thank you for that introduction, and thank you for having me tonight. I am beyond excited to be joining this district. I think you have some amazing things already happening. I look forward to getting to know all your schools, all of your families, most importantly, all of your students, and seeing what the needs are and using those, needs to develop some strategic planning with all of you. So I'm incredibly excited. I can't wait to get my email instituted so I can start finding out what's going on. And I shared with the team, I did see that this position had been posted earlier in the year, and this was not a year to leave a school partway through the year. And when the position resurfaced, I immediately jumped on the opportunity. So I am so excited to be here, and I just want to thank the leadership team and my interview committee for giving me such a nice introduction, and I can't wait to get to know all of you. I do plan on being here over the summer, so please stop by, send me emails, let me know what your priorities are, because that's how I'm going to get to know what the jobs at hand are to respond to. So thank you so much.
Well, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions anybody has? All right,
All right,
We're good.
well, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
tonight.
Thank you
so
very much, Hannah.
I
We'll be
really
talking
appreciate
soon.
it.
thanks.
Great.
And we'll see you soon.
Next up this evening, continuing, we're going to invite up Kelly Rogers, our coordinator for reading, ELL, and Title I services, and Rob Aslin, who is the principal of Harrington Elementary School. So we'll give them a second to
I was
get
going to say, I come with props.
props. They're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that's happening at Harrington and intertwined with some of our new reading program. So I will turn it over to Rob and Kelly. We're glad you could join us tonight.
Great, thanks for having us. It's really nice to see everybody in person. It's been a while.
It's the first time my view has changed in a year.
We're the guinea pigs this year, I suppose, right?
Exactly. Like Dr. Lang said, we're here to talk about really exciting news, our literacy update, because we've had so many changes over the past year. And then we're highlighting Harrington as well this evening. So, excuse me, my mask, I'm like having a hard time speaking because I can't breathe very well. But tonight we're going to talk about our journey to FPC and foundations, and it's been quite a journey, so I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk about Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, which is the literacy program that we adopted in conjunction with our Foundations program, which is more of a phonics program. K through 2, we'll be adopting 3rd grade next year. And then just the integrated approach to literacy and how this all fits together. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And Rob's going to talk a little bit about the program implementation, about how that's gone this past year. Even though we've been in a pandemic, I would say that it's been quite successful and we've really made the best of it. And we'll have some testimonials from teachers from Harrington and a few video clips as well. And like I said, we will be highlighting Harrington this evening. So I just want to let you know, I felt like we needed to begin talking a little bit about our journey, because it really has been a journey getting to where we are now with our literacy program. And I know Dr. Hirsch has spoken about this at prior school committee meetings when we were piloting our program, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom and Foundations, which all began prior to the pandemic. And we looked at a few programs. We narrowed it down to Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, Foundations. We actually went on a few site visits. We went to Templeton, Massachusetts. We went to Concord, and we brought our pilot teachers. We had pilot teachers from every grade level and every elementary school. which I think is great because we really had good representation, and the teachers were able to give us some really good feedback about what they liked, what they didn't like, pros and cons. And so I couldn't resist but help put this little picture of Dr. Hirsch here driving the school Chelmsford minibus there, because she took all the teachers to the sites. So we all went together. So it was really kind of like a bonding activity as well. And again, this was all pre-pandemic. And then spring, summer happened, and we made the decisions to go with our Fountas and Pinnell classroom and foundations, knowing that it was so important that we got the materials in the teachers' hands prior to them leaving for summer vacation last year. And we wanted them to have some training as well. So as you see from this picture here, and again, another one I couldn't resist because I think Rob actually, he helped us, Dr. Hirsch and myself, lift all of these boxes and move them. But this is just a picture of Harrington. So multiply this by 4, and this is just one program. And we had all of the foundation's materials coming in as well. So that's kind of the background of what took place before the actual implementation. And we were fortunate to have some preliminary training from both companies, Heinemann and Wilson Language Learning, prior to the teachers leaving for summer, which I think really helped them get an idea about what the programs were going to be like, and they can kind of really wrap their head around that. I'm really proud to say, too, that Chelmsford, in our negotiations, I have to tell Dr. Hirsch's story of foundations and saying, what can you provide for us? And we're giving you, or you're giving them your kidney, because it costs a lot of money. So how are you going to provide this professional development to our teachers during this pandemic? And foundations at the time didn't really have a plan, right? Because it was always in-person training. And so Chelmsford was actually the pilot site for this virtual implementation support, where they actually created the virtual professional development for Chelmsford, which is now being implemented throughout the country. So we were kind of like the first district to participate, or we were the reason why they knew that, oh my goodness, things are really changing and we're going to have to change our delivery and what we do. So just kind of as an aside, but we were part of a research project that all year long with ongoing professional development, which I can speak to a little later as well. But we are going to be receiving a report from Wilson Learning about the whole year and the implementation of how their virtual implementation support went, because again, it was a research effort. So just as an aside. So a little bit about Fountas and Pinnell Classroom. Fountas and Pinnell Classroom is owned by Heinemann. What I love about Fountas and Pinnell Classroom, it's a multi-text approach to literacy instruction. It also, I put the diagram up on the screen of what a classroom should look like, not in a pandemic, but you can see that there are different stations in our elementary K through 4 where you've got a situation where students are working in a small group, they're working whole group, they're working independently, and that's just how the Fountas and Pinnell Classroom components are set up. So students have an experience and an opportunity to be working, again, in a small group, individually, or independently, or with one another, or just with their teacher. So the program components, which I know you all have heard, we pretty much purchased the whole kit and caboodle, which is very exciting. And I'll just speak to a little bit about what the components are. So we have the interactive read aloud, which is really the crux of the program. And they come with text sets that have themes. And I can't tell you enough, and Rob will speak to it a little later too, about the teachers' reactions and students' reactions to these texts. They all have a theme, and they're beautifully written. They're from famous authors, whatnot. So for example, like this text set could be all about kindness or what it means to have determination. And so the interactive read aloud kind of sets the stage for conversation, student engagement, And then with that, again, this is kind of the main piece, students are introduced to a variety of mini lessons. They're skilled-based 5 or 10 minute mini lessons where the teacher can take a skill about literature analysis or strategies or writing about reading and integrate it into this whole text set theme that we have. So that's another component. Independent reading, which I spoke to, was that's independent choice. So students will, next year, when hopefully we're all able to go back to the classroom freely, come visit, because the literature and the amount of books that you'll see in these classrooms is amazing. So independent reading, every classroom has their own library of books. And this is a time where students can take a book and just have some choice about what they want to read, which is great, and that can be a center as well. And you've heard and we speak about guided reading. That's another component of this program that we have. And we actually had guided reading in place before we implemented Fontes and Pennell Classroom. And this is really a time that teachers can work with a small group of students on explicit reading strategies based on the student's reading level. So this is where we use our benchmark assessment system, and we determine where students are at and what they need, and we meet them where they're at to present them with books that are appropriate for their guided reading level. And then we have shared reading, which is another component, K through 3. I mean, these books are awesome. Like, they come in, they're big books. They are shared. The teacher reads aloud. The students, they have 6 companion books that come along with them. The students can partake in the reading as well. Most of them are nonfiction texts and very high interest as well. Book clubs, which Rob will speak about, and I'll speak in just a minute. I'll talk a little bit about book clubs is something else that we implemented, but we felt as though, oh my goodness, we have so many components in this literature program that wouldn't it be nice to include the librarians in this literacy piece. So we took the book club component, grades 2 through 4, and we have the librarians working with students. Students are picking books, and they're talking. They're talking with each other in small groups about books that they've read. So these are just mini book clubs that students are participating in, and we'll show you a few videos about how well that's going as well. If you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit excited about these programs. And then Phonics Word Study, which we adopted just grade 4 because we have our Foundations program in grade K through 3. And the Phonics Word Study is really something that's more developmentally appropriate for our grade 4 students, vocabulary acquisition, word meaning, etc. So, Rob, you want to talk a little bit about we'll introduce the slides or the videos, and then I'll.
Well, what I can say is, I think before, implementing this new literacy program prior to the pandemic, not knowing, of course, that was occurring, really couldn't have come at a better time. Because what it did was it got the school set and ready in a consistent fashion when it came to implementing the literacy periods. We were able to develop a schedule that supported the requirements of the programs, so that the teachers would have as adequate a time as you possibly can in an elementary schedule, which is already a challenge as it is. But it allowed us to go into the year prior to closing with a consistent approach to literacy, which is something, though all grades were doing the literacy, of course, prior to, this put us on the same page, which allowed us to have more of a structured approach to literacy implementation in the school. So then when the pandemic occurred, we were set in regards to what the literacy period was going to look like, and we knew how to manage it and provide the structure in a fairly unstructured environment. So it helped with the transitional periods between being out, then coming in. It helped with all those aspects of getting the kids in line with the structured routine because of the way it's laid out. The way Kelly had introduced it, the structure of the program allows for all the teachers to do the same essential aspect of the program, and everybody's on the same page, so it allows for that team approach to be more consistent across the five sections for me. So it did come at the perfect time. Even though it was a big adjustment, it was a big change through the PD that came with it, that Linda provided, and Kelly. I think that the teachers grasped it, they accepted it, they were able to work together with it because they were all doing the same thing, which made it very easy. The package is incredibly large. There are so many components to it, so many resources to it, that there's nothing, you don't need anything outside of it. You don't need supplemental materials for it. It's all there. So it's a well-packaged program that really came at a perfect time and gave us the structure and routine to really see the growth, especially this year. So it worked out really well for us.
So sorry.
Gonna say, any changes now that you're back full-time?
No, everything, we're still running, they still run the program as if when we were out. Okay.
So the biggest change would be that everything was digitized, so we were able to show the books to the students online. But now, obviously, they can, they're more tangible and they can touch them, and it's live. But they had access to everything, even though it was remote, which
So
is
the
great.
process is not changed, but the resources may have, because now they're more tangible.
Correct. Oh, yeah.
And when you change the structure of the classroom from 6 feet to 3, it allows you to implement the way it's supposed to look in the classroom based on Kelly's picture.
I was going to say, I'm
A
hoping
lot
that
better.
picture is going to
So that picture that she showed with the stations is the next step in the process to actually get the full picture of the program. But we're closer than, of course, we were when we were 6 feet.
So we'll show you a little clip from, this is Barbara DeFreitas. She's a librarian at Harrington, and she's kind of talking about how she implements the book club over at Harrington. And then there's a student who's just adorable to tell you how fantastic she thinks book club is.
Hi, I'm Barbara DeFreitas. I'm the librarian at Harrington. I'm going to show how the participant book clubs have been going that I'm doing during my library class. Since the start of full in-person learning, I've been doing book clubs in grades 2 to 4, and it's going well. I decided to approach it differently than intended
What do you want me to do?
because we're in a pandemic, and because of the way kids are seated in their desks and they're not supposed to
Not buffered, hold on.
well. I decided to approach it differently than intended because we're in a pandemic. And hi, Barbara DeFreitas. I'm the librarian at Harrington. And I'm going to share with you how the participant book clubs have been going that I'm doing during my library class. Since the start of full in-person learning, I'm doing book clubs in grades 2 to 4.
It's just not
And it's
buffered.
going really, really well. I decided to approach it differently than intended because we're in a pandemic, and because of the way the kids are seated at their desks and they're not supposed to be at their desks. Ideally, book clubs are supposed to give students a choice of 4 different books and within a text set. And in a class of 24 students, you have 4 groups of 6, each reading the same book. Each group would read a different book, and then in a small discussion group with me, share thoughts about the book. And after thinking about it, I thought,
Someday we'll figure those videos.
We thought we had this.
We was working.
We
were working at the
tried
beginning. I could
this,
vouch for
I'll
that.
tell you right now.
It's that seat. It's gotta be that
It's
seat.
something.
It's the seat. All right.
We can't blame the remote. We're here. We're live.
Barbara DeFreitas, I'm the librarian at Harrington.
Oh, poor
I'm going to
Barbara.
share with you how
It was working earlier, I can tell you
it's
that.
going really, really well. I decided to approach it differently than because we're in a pandemic and because of the way
Let's,
kids are
wait,
seated
yeah,
at
let's
their
go
desks.
see if
I
we
mean,
can
we
get our,
spoke to it.
yeah, we can get to our friend here and see if she,
This one's short.
let's come back.
I'm Barbara DeFreitas, and I'm a librarian.
Poor Barbara.
Do it from there.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Should I go back to present?
Maybe I'll go back to present.
Okay.
All right,
All
now we're
right.
moving on.
Sorry for the interruption. But Barbara DeFreitas is doing a phenomenal job with book club. The kids meet with her, and I have gotten very great reviews around the excitement from classroom teachers, from parents, and also the librarians are really so happy that they're part of this this program, because I really feel like now they have this connection with the classroom teachers and they can have real conversations. Also, I just wanted to mention the book club series and choices are all based on those text set themes that I spoke of. So if the text set theme is about diversity or the act of kindness, the book club options are also around those themes as well. So it kind of all fits together nicely.
There's a special piece in the video that's unfortunate we can't watch. He was talking about, they just got done reading a story about somebody who was struggling with employment. A parent had struggled with employment, and she had her discussion afterwards, and there was a little girl that is very shy, doesn't speak much, and she raised her hand. She said, "Mr. Freyas, my father lost his job." So what these books provide the students are themes, something that they know. They can relate to the stories. You know, they're living the experiences that they hear about in the stories, whether it's diversity, you know, struggles, different struggles, you know, kindness, all those different aspects. And because they're being focused on so extensively, that it makes them comfortable and feel confident to contribute to the class. And Barbara certainly takes it to heart with this book clubs, and she's put a lot of effort into putting it together and adapting to the program, considering the pandemic limits the sharing of things. So she takes it as a whole group, goes through it with the kids, and is really enjoying it. And the kids have flourished in that process. So they're getting all these additional aspects of exposures to literacy. So it's really working out very well.
Yeah, that's great. And the librarians have also been part of our professional development for the Fontes and Pennell classroom. So everyone's kind of on the same page, which is great. So like I mentioned earlier, Fontes and Pennell classroom is a literature-based program. So that's one component of our literacy piece. But we also implemented not just one program last year during a pandemic, but why not two, right, at the elementary level? So we also introduced Foundations. And Foundations is a phonics program. It's a multi-sensory phonics program. It's recommended that you spend 30 minutes per day. It speaks to or emphasizes phonemic awareness, manipulating sounds, phonics, and how that fits in, to reading and high frequency words and vocabulary, comprehension, handwriting, spelling. And so this is not a standalone program, like I said. It's meant to be paired with a literature-based program, which we decided that Fontes and Pennell Classroom would just be a great pairing. The instruction's cumulative, it's scaffolded, it's very systematic, it's very structured. I mentioned it's multisensory, so this is why I brought some props. So the kids are really engaged in this learning their letters and sounds. So we have sound cards the students are exposed to, A, apple, ah. We have these dry erase boards where they actually, in the program, like I mentioned, handwriting is a component. So it's very consistent within the program. Everyone's learning the same thing. And what they call this is skywriting. So skywriting, they say, okay, where do you start? You start on the skyline, the plain line, the grass line, the dirt line. So they're learning their letter formation. They use these boards for dictation as well. So every student has their own magnetic letters and these boards, and they're able to manipulate the tiles and the letters and to make sounds, to make the words, to create the words, which is phenomenal. They also are asked to tap words. I have a video, I don't know if it's going to work, but Kathy Kolakowski, who's our reading specialist over at Harrington, this video is about her students tapping out words, so tapping sounds. So for example, if you had the word chat, right? Chat. So chat, okay, oh my goodness, wait a minute. Chat has 4 letters, but it has 3 sounds, and you get students who are now understanding what a digraph is, what an open or closed syllable is. They're marking words, and it's really kind of amazing. I have to be honest, I was so it was kind of an all hands on deck situation this year with our assessing, and we use, as you know, the Dibbles assessment in K and 1. And I was assessing a few kindergarten and first grade students, and one of the tasks that they're asked to do is they're asked to segment words and sounds, And I can't tell you how many students were using the foundation strategy, and they were tapping as they were answering the questions. So it was quite impressive. So again, foundations, I would like to show you this video. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll try it. Another Harrington highlight. Let's see.
Your word dusted. Repeat dusted. Dusted. What's the base started? Dust. Tap out dust. Nice job. Spell dust.
You get the idea. Sorry. But they're tapping out the words as they're learning. So that's the multisensory piece. And then I just have to show you this guy. This guy's called Echo, and this is an owl. So he's used, the teachers use this to model. And Echo, the owl puppet, he repeats sounds and he repeats words and sentences. Kids just love this. And then there's Baby Echo, which they're able to use as they identify the letters and sounds on the easels and the whiteboards. So there's a lot happening in the multisensory area for students to really absorb and engage in the content of this program.
It's highly interactive. The student engagement across the board, you know, when there's 20 kindergartners tapping out and saying it all at the same time in unison it's pretty impressive. So the student engagement and motivation it's really wonderful to see in the room.
So like I mentioned earlier, we adopted the two programs. We have the Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, and we have the Foundation program, and it's really an integrated approach to literacy. So the focus is really on students being able to read, to write, to critique multiple texts. And like I said, what I love about the program that we're talking about, you know, social and cognitive aspects of literacy learning. It's all interconnected. I feel like we have a common thread throughout the district, K through 4. In our general education, our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, throughout our special education. So like I mentioned before, the benchmark assessment system, so that's used for all of our students, K through 4, to identify what their guided reading level is. So we have an idea about what students need and where we need to hone in on that intervention. And then for those students who are more at a level 2, they needed just a double dose. They need something a little extra. We use our level literacy intervention program with our reading specialists. That's what we call LLI. What I love about that is LLI is part of Fontes and Pinnell Classroom and Heinemann. It all fits together. So we have benchmark assessment system, that's Heinemann, tier 1. And then we have our level literacy intervention program. So students get that dose with their reading specialist. And then tier 3, which would be Amy's department, our special education, we have Wilson Language, which is more of a tier 3 intervention model for students who just need something even different, but they're all connected, which I love. So we've got a lot of commonalities and consistencies. Our programs are all aligned to our standards. Students are responding to text. They're writing about, and like Rob said, they're able maybe perhaps to relate to some of these situations that they're reading about, but maybe they aren't. Maybe this is something that they're introduced to that's new to them, and that students are really thinking critically about situations and events that perhaps they don't know about, and can form opinions, and be advocates for themselves or whatnot. And then also, all of these programs have scaffolds to support our English language learners. All of our L department, they have the foundations program, like they have the components of the foundations program. So when they need that extra assistance, the L teacher can also work on, the sounds and the words, et cetera, and they're getting that common language. The ELL teachers participate in our professional development as well. And like I mentioned, we have those social emotional learning connections throughout the program as well. And so Rob can speak to this, but we have Kelly Hardy, who's a first grade teacher, and again, this is another video, but she's really speaking to about how this program has been
The structure and
successful.
the structure and routine of the program, especially into this year, with such a difficult last year, with students and literacy and reading supports and all those other different aspects that we weren't able to fully provide the students. It's probably not going to work, but she's going to attest
So
to.
are we going to risk this?
We can try, but she'll discuss, she's going to discuss about the levels of the students that came in, and because of the structure and routine, and I was going to say in addition to what Kelly was saying as far as the program, I appreciate the structure and routine of the program, because what it does is it allows the students to transition from grade to grade, knowing going into this literacy, whether at a more challenging level, it's the same format. They can expect the same format of the way it's going to be presented, and it can be worked through. So that's just another piece that allows them to get into the curriculum without the struggle of a different, transitioning into a different form of curriculum. So what she's going to say is the growth that her students have experienced since coming into the year, which has been substantial. I would say the growth throughout the year has been really well. The students are adapting to it very well. The more that they're in school, of course, the better it's been for them. But that's pretty much what she was going to say, how much she appreciates the program and what she's been able to do with her students.
Yeah, and she also spoke to not only FPC, but foundations
Foundations
and
as
how
well.
they meld together, and it's really a great pairing. And we have gotten, honestly, for the
minutes
teachers have been faced with so many challenges, and I think that they were thankful that they had these programs in place and the professional development and training. We're skipping the video, is that the
Well,
consensus?
we can try. Let's see.
You can try. If it doesn't go well, just say.
So close. 1 second.
No? Okay. Here we go. I promise this really did work,
It
right?
did. It did.
Okay. So our journey continues, obviously. Ongoing professional learning is so important to make sure that we're growing as educators, and that we're giving the teachers what they need to be able to provide for and support their students. Like I mentioned, the Foundations program was rolled out K through 2, but next year we're adding 3rd grade. It was recommended by Wilson that we do not start with a K through 3 rollout because just that the grade 2 students moving up needed that exposure before being introduced to the grade 3 material. And then we have the literacy continuum from Fontes and Pennell, which we're going to be running teacher book groups around. So again, our learning continues, and we can just only continue to hone our skills and get better at what we do to make sure that we're providing for our students, and just make sure that they have a love of learning and literacy and that they're growing. Questions?
Anybody have any questions? No? Donna?
You may remember back in 2018, we had a group of parents across the state that really
Yes.
pushed for some intervention guidelines from the Department of Education around dyslexia. Those finally came out in January of 2020, but then the pandemic happened. So, do you have any idea where we are with implementing those guidelines at this point?
Yeah, so like I said, I feel like Chelmsford was always kind of ahead of the game a little bit on that, because we introduced, with our DIBELS testing, we introduced the RAN,
Right.
the Rapid Automatized Naming assessment, which we still do. And what we do is we take the students who are in the lowest 10th percentile, and there aren't many of them, I'll be happy to tell you. That triangle really is, that RTI triangle really works. It's a very small percentage. But we monitor those students, and we give them specific skill groups, and continue to monitor them throughout the year. So, we'll continue to wait, for additional guidance, but right now we have identified who our students are at risk for dyslexia, not they have we're not
Right.
diagnosing that. It's
Right.
just what are we going to do for those kids who are at risk? And we are fortunate also to have our Title I programming in place in 3 out of our 4 elementary schools. So we're able to really give students that, the extra dose that they need. And I'm happy to report that we were able to do that even in the pandemic. I mean, we have a phenomenal reading, Title I reading interventionist at Harrington who works, in specific skill groups with those students. So we continue to monitor that, and just to make sure, I'm really excited about looking at the data of this, what our data looks like, a year out after implementing these 2 programs, because the Foundations program is a very systematic, explicit program in instruction-wise for phonics. And, the research will tell you that this is what the kids need. We, of course, with the year of pandemic or whatnot, I don't have the data to support that yet, but I think we will have it. Our iReady scores are already looking pretty good. Our third window hasn't closed yet, but we monitor that pretty closely. iReady also has a component, because dyslexia is kind of like that hot button, hot topic. But iReady also has a dyslexia component with it that you can use the data to also determine who is potentially at risk for dyslexia as well. So we have that in place.
So the only school then is South Row, right, that is in Title I?
Yes, well, we were fortunate because Jay had put in, or Dr. Lang had put into the budget we didn't call them we called them tutors. So they did actually hire a math tutor, midway through the year. So we were able to get some additional intervention for the students, even though it wasn't Title I.
The problem with the cutoff of the Title I funds in our district can kind of move on a year-to-year basis.
Right.
So we find ourselves in a situation where, say, one year South Row could be in, the next they could be out.
Right.
But for planning and consistency purposes, we wanted to maintain that kind of baseline service level,
Yep.
if not more. So in the local budget, we've actually included a line item for tutors. We can't call them the same thing as we do on the grant.
Right.
So they're interventionists on the grant, but they're tutors on our local budget. So we'll be actually kind of filling holes with those individuals in the budget. And then I actually included a few more for this year, so even above baseline. So whether your school is Title I or not, we can provide that extra level of support in ELA and math.
That's from that 1.5 million, 1.3 million that we talked about the last meeting?
No, that would even be in like addition.
Oh,
So
okay.
in our regular local budget, I want to say off the top of my head, we have somewhere around $600,000 that we can kind of target towards these interventionists, tutors, whatever you want to call them, kind of ELA mathematics positions,
Right.
primarily at the elementary and the middle school level.
For middle school as well. Just continuing down that line of questioning, what happens right now in the system to the students who are in middle school, who are who aren't learning the system right now?
Oh my goodness, Maria, this is such a great segue. I love it. How could I have left this out? That the good news is that this program is actually, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom is being adopted for our pre-K, our preschoolers. So darn cute. I can't even tell you. I mean, you look at this stuff and it's just like phenomenal, these big books. And grades 5 and 6 next year will also have Fontes and Pinnell Classroom. So I apologize for not including that. So thank you for bringing that up. So again, that whole consistency piece and that common language is now going to be moving to the middle school level as well.
Yeah. One of the concerns had been when we were discussing the dyslexia situation and so on and the guidelines coming, had been how do we get the kids who haven't been assessed, who haven't been able, at the beginning in grades 1, 2, or even in K. And so I just thinking about the system and how do we make sure we've caught these kids and that we're providing the best we can even at the middle school level and beyond in terms of the interventions that they need for literacy. And so is there something in the system that, can catch that?
Yeah, so I mean, most of our students are screened at the early levels for the Dibbles and the RAN. But we also have the iReady, keep in mind, through K through 8. And like I mentioned, they have just, because this dyslexia is a very important piece of the puzzle, they have included a dyslexia component. So that's something that we can ferret out even in the upper grade levels.
That's good.
Through the iReady program. Yeah,
I
I
wanna-
know. It
That's
is.
great. That's great on the middle school. I wanted to make sure that Rob mentions this, which is great news. I didn't do it at Good News. Harrington's biggest fundraiser this year was what? Close to $18,000, 17,000 something.
Just in a month.
In
month.
book sales.
No, it was reading.
The reading. Well, they
was- it wasn't-
fundraised through
it
reading,
was-
but you
it
did
was-
it through the book.
20 minutes a day the kids pledged, and they went out for pledges, and so in the month of March, just March, we raised over $17,000.
That's amazing. And
That
it
is
included
amazing.
some corporate sponsorship,
awesome.
well,
Yep.
community sponsorship too, but that was absolutely amazing. And I'm sure the interaction and the coordination of everything helps to
All tied together, all brought
Harrington's
it together.
amazing.
So- Well, that's
good
a given,
place.
but yes.
to develop that love for reading. So I thought, this is great news, right, important today. And I don't even have a video for it, sorry.
Crushing me,
you
Maria.
I do have one more question if I can, and that's about professional development. So what's the plan now in terms of going into next year? You're going to continue very likely with some level of professional development. Do you return to teachers and assess with them what's missing, what they haven't gotten? Do we return to this? How do we figure out what the gaps are and what they need?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, Dr. Hirsch has probably spoken to the PD survey that was given to the staff recently. We actually have a PD committee meeting tomorrow that will discuss just these things of like, what are the needs of our teachers and what do they think, they need to continue to succeed in the program. So we'll take a look and see what their needs are, but the plan is, like I said, we have contracted with Wilson Learning, all of our grade 3 teachers. When I say professional development, I mean, this was pretty intense.
It was.
That it was pretty
was
I don't know if
robust. It was very
intense was the right word, but it was very comprehensive. So we met grade level probably every 6 weeks. The grade 1, K met, 1 met, and grade 2 met with a consultant through Wilson. And then the same thing will happen for grade 3 next year for foundations. Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, I'm also going to be participating in some training this summer. I'm taking a course on the literacy continuum, which is kind of like the be-all, end-all of like how to teach reading. And they have, a study group and book group that I will be facilitating as well as part of my role as a leader for literacy. We, again, like I said, that it is ongoing. We can't, obviously, it's not just one and done. So we will continue to assess the needs and provide teachers with what they need. And especially new teachers coming in.
Right.
Already, I'm going to be purchasing also for our Title I interventionist next year. I'm anticipating, I hope, that we're going to be maintaining our funds, and so making sure that they have accessibility not to the specific but programming, but the components that go with it, that they can also be providing that for teachers. So supporting the Title I interventionists and providing them with the professional development as well. Like I said, it's just ongoing on a needs-based assessment.
I think they need consistency to actually roll it out the way it's supposed to be rolled out and implemented. They still haven't had an opportunity to actually have it set up in their rooms the way it's supposed to be set up in their rooms and implemented because of the pandemic restrictions. So I think once the program itself is fully implemented the way it's supposed to be, without any limitations or restrictions, you're going to get a more, probably clearer expectations or follow-up on the program itself. It's got to be put into place the way it's supposed to be put into place to get a really accurate feedback.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I have to be, I honestly, I'm telling you, I'm passionate about it. I'm so excited when you go into the classrooms and you see the children just learning, and you walk into the next classroom and you see something very similar, and I'd like to see that as well. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it's similar, and I think that says a lot. And you go from school to, I have this bird's eye view because I do visit all of the schools, and you walk in and into Harrington, and if you go to Byam, you're seeing very similar things, and I think that says a lot. And I'm just really excited about it. So
Yes.
please take an opportunity to visit when you can, perhaps next year.
That's actually very important in the system, the parity throughout, so thank you.
Other questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. I don't think people realize, and even I don't probably realize how complicated it is to put these kind of programs in place, despite even just outside of everything with last year. So thank you for putting it in place, and thank you for doing the work. And for me, it's always about outcomes for children. So it sounds like there's some good outcomes, and hopefully that continues. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thanks so
to the
much for having us. It
staff.
was
Thank
nice
you.
to see everybody again.
Donna, you had a question?
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Freitas and Ms. Hardy and all the Harrington students
Yes,
for
right.
Yes.
taking the time to put together those videos. I'm sorry that we couldn't see them, but we're working on that.
I
But
just-
nonetheless, I'm just, thank you, because it takes time and
Yep.
energy.
Just a question too before you go, since it's kind of off the topic, but we're a month in, the students being back full-time.
Yeah.
The shine's worn off. How's everything going? You seeing any issues, things that
Hasn't
we need
worn
to
off
be
for me.
concerned?
It's good. I'll tell you, the transition's been really wonderful. The students have slid right back into a normal routine. When you're talking about a group of individuals that can adapt to anything, it's them. They come in with their mask, they work their mask, they follow the expectations. They do it without hesitation. It's like second nature. They're sponges for it, and they do it. But they're happy to be back. The staff are really happy to have them. I love having them all in the building. But if it wasn't for the masks, you wouldn't know there was a concern. Or the gym. My whole gym is my calf, which is pretty amazing to see, But other than that, they handle it like champs. I tell them every day how proud I am of them. And they're champions. They've done a great job.
Good to hear, because I know in the next couple of meetings, we're going to talk about transitioning for next year and any concerns that we.
I think
need to
for
address.
us, I think my concern, if I have a concern, it's going to be a spacing thing. And that only is in regards to the 6 feet. If we have to maintain 6 feet unmasked, with my remote kids coming back, it's finding that additional space for those 20 from a grade
Right.
for lunch. Other than that, I'm not worried about them coming back. I think that we'll be fine, even if we go back 3 feet. We're prepared for it. It would just be the 6 foot thing that I'd be concerned about. And
Things are
the
changing so
spacing of
fast now,
that.
who knows? what's
I
gonna
know.
I know.
Day
turn
by
around
day,
every
minute by
yeah.
minute.
Right. Okay, that's great to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. And just also to thank the staff tremendously for working during this incredible year for the implementation of these programs, which were new. Took quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, they made it happen.
They
I
did.
mean, honestly, they really, it's amazing. And they do it for the kids because they are passionate about what they
Yes.
do. So you just make it work.
Yep.
It's a
Terrific.
common theme that I'm sure John knows too, overcome and adapt, and they did that, and they did a great job with it, so.
Killed it.
It worked out well.
Thank you guys
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Nice to see you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. We didn't even get to hold the stuffed animal? What was that?
Right? You want Echo the Owl?
Can't pass things around yet, we're not
Yeah.
there yet.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Can't pass things
We're
around.
still
Next time.
still left to the pass round.
Take care.
Okay. We'll let Linda
Yeah,
and
we'll just
Joanna
let
get-
Joanna get settled and welcome. All right, we're
Back at
back.
it.
So our third item on the agenda this evening, after those presentations, and thank you again, Kelly and Rob, for doing that. We appreciate it. Joanna has a little update for us. This is the time of the year that we start talking about, under normal circumstances, transportation, setting our fee schedules, setting our registration schedules, because we do have to get rolling for that for the fall. So I'd ask Joanna to just review the little memo she put together, talking a little bit about this year's riders, adopting a similar format that we've had in the past. We're going to assume we're going back to school as normal for the fall with regard to transportation, and Joanna will walk us through that.
Okay, thank you. The first memo is a little kind of 2 years in review, a typical year with transportation, and then this past year with the reduced ridership because of all the social distancing requirements for the buses. And then the second memo is to ask you to approve our bus fee structure for next year. We are going to recommend that we go back to charging for riding the bus. This year, as you may recall, it was no fee for anyone to ride the bus. And then just our little flyer that goes on the website to help parents kind of get reintroduced to the rules of registering to ride the bus. So normally we have 3,400 students riding 29 buses a year. And each bus makes 3 runs, the high school, the middle school, then the elementary. This year we had significantly less. Right now we have 1,921 riders. The fee structure, this is just a little reminder that if you're K to 6 over 2 miles, you do not have to pay a fee to ride the bus. Everybody else who wishes to ride the bus would pay the fee. And then there is a financial assistance section 2, and if you're eligible for free and reduced lunch, that can help out with your bus fee. And then just a reminder to all the families, you have to register to ride the bus, even if there's no fee. We need to know about you, where you are, what bus to put you on, what your bus stop is, send you a bus pass. The next page has a little chart about when people register. We try to get people to register early. That really helps us with our planning. Really try to cut down on that last minute, right before school registration. That makes it tough on everybody. So we encourage families to register in June, and you get a little discount, or July, and then once August and September hits, we just place you on the best route, and then we'll adjust bus stops as we need to through the year. The next little chart is this past year of families registering. This was a weird year because they all registered, and then we had to social distance. So then we did a huge refund last August. So in the end, this is how it all ended. Not super meaningful, but it'll help us with the look back of what happened this year with transportation. The next little chart shows how many buses each school has and how many students ride the bus on average in a typical year. So for example, the Byam has 8 buses, 386 students, with about 49 students per bus. And then this year is very different. Still 8 buses, only 247 students, and 31 students on the bus. And then a little summary of what we're trying to do to always improve transportation. Peter Brakalis, our transportation coordinator, works with the transportation company and principals and assistant principals, teachers, families, to try to solve the things that come up, try to accommodate, but in the end, we just want to have a safe ride for the students and get them to and from school on time. Any questions about the little year in review?
It's not.
Okay. So then the next memo is our recommendation for the bus fee structure for next school year. We're recommending in June and up to July 5th. It's all the exact same fees as normal. $175 for a bus pass with a family cap of $400. And then in July, raise that a little bit to $200 a bus pass with a $500 family cap. And then if you register after August 1st, up a little bit, $225 with a family cap of $500. And then if you register very late in February, just a discount of a half fee of $100. So this was the same structure we had last year until you voted to make it no fee and all the refunds.
So will that half-year registration period help kids who get their licenses halfway through, like, a year in high school or something? No? Okay.
No, I mean, if you want to address it, I have my own thought as to why it happens, but I'm not sure.
I
Do a
think it's
different
more, if you're new to the community.
Okay.
It's the move-ins.
And you move in and you'd like to ride the bus and you move in February, you don't have to pay the whole fee. You pay a
Okay,
little
so it's
less.
only from February on?
Right.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like the half year.
Okay,
So we do get people to move to the district, in the middle of the
Right,
year.
right.
And instead of having them pay for the full pass for the
Right,
whole time, that's the case. If you happen to get your driver's license during the course of the year, then you would have already paid the fee. You're not
Right.
really helping that group. We helped that group 2 years back when we removed the parking fee at the high school.
right, right.
So they don't have to pay to actually park at the school any longer, but you would have to still pay to provide a bus pass.
Okay.
Questions on the fees at all?
Just on fees?
Yeah,
Question.
right now, any question? So just to, I know we know that, but just to highlight, these fees only pay a small portion of what it costs to transport each student, correct?
Correct.
That's correct. So it's about, in a traditional year, on the big bus, $1.8 million to pay the transportation company. And then the fees collected are usually around $350,000 to help offset that cost.
Just to highlight
That savings we built into the budget has like a revenue offset, so our budget is predicated on that.
We have that into this year's budget.
Correct. We assumed a normal year
Yeah.
for next year.
You're assuming a normal year.
For next year. When it
And
came to the budgeting and, the total amount, what our revenue offset would be, and then going back to like more traditional bus schedules, that's what we're assuming for the fall. And that's what this assumes here.
Can you just remind me what the guidelines are from DESI around transportation? Is it,
For right-
everybody can ride a bus now? Like, there's no social distancing on the bus, or,
You talking about for now or for next fall?
I'm talking about for right now.
Go ahead.
So you are correct. DESI's guidelines are that they can full capacity on the bus. But, wearing masks, windows down,
Right,
things
right.
like that.
Okay.
We're in a position, we have, as you can see from the charts, we're at about half capacity.
Right.
So, and the children are sitting, window,
Right,
aisle, window, and trying to spread out by grade.
okay.
We're still trying to spread out as much as we can.
Sure.
But yes, technically, that has been lifted if you're wearing a mask and you have the
Right.
windows down.
I was just trying to anticipate what the next, what the next step might be from DESI. But since it appears that,
I guess, the hard part for us was, did you have a quick question? Or
Well, it's gonna be the same type of thing.
Oh, okay.
My concern is, I don't wanna go to, set a policy and go ahead and approve something as a policy, and then have to come back and say, no, you can't ride the bus, and we're gonna refund you the fee again. It would be, so I just, the plan here and the anticipation is that everything will be fine in September, and we're gonna be able to continue at least as we are now. So the reply was, we would fit everybody in, the 3,400 usual students, if we were to have what we have now. Is that correct?
I think what we have to do is move forward and assume that we're gonna be back to transporting at regular capacity. And to do that, we have our mileage limits, if you're under 2 miles, if you're over 2 miles. We need to be able to actually see in a normal year who would be signing up for the bus. we got that curveball thrown out at us last year where we had to restrict basically the ridership because we just didn't have the capacity to be able to transport everyone. But if we hadn't collected a fee or like set up the routes to be able to run, because there's a lot of work that takes place over the summer to do that. You have to roll all the students forward in the system. You have to verify addresses, move schools, all that information. We don't have the ability to kind of wait because I think it is going to, everything is changing so quickly. You know, it could be July, August as new regulations and guidance comes out. I think we have to be prepared as if it's going to be a regular school year. And then if we ever had another curveball thrown at us, you know, late, we're going to have to adapt again. I think last year, no one liked having to make the adaptation when we did, but I think we all said at that point in time, let's actually try to take the financial piece off of families because we knew it was difficult. So as hard as it was to process all of those refunds, you know, we did that to return the funds to the families because we knew there was only a segment of the population we were going to be able to transport. We didn't want to do that, but that's what we kind of had to do. I think just given what's been happening lately over the last couple of weeks, I think it is more likely than not that we'll be back to regular transportation for the fall. I think it is still highly likely that we'll have masks, you know, on buses, and I think there's still a question about indoor spaces at some point. But I think we'll be back to regular capacity on the buses. And we do need to go forward and actually get that data from our families to be able to put the runs together this summer to see where we're going to be at. You know, I
Yeah,
hope
so-
we're not in a situation where we're having to restrict ridership again.
Right.
Because I know how difficult that is for families scheduling wise and whatnot.
And that
I
means-
apologize. I was just trying to kind of get a sense for where we are right now with the latest SE guidelines in an attempt to try and figure out where we might be, which I realize is silly. But nonetheless, you know, I do think you're right. I have a funny feeling that we're going to be back to probably, we are already at full capacity, but we may have parents who may opt to use transportation. But we still also have the opt-out of transportation, and you can drive your own student if parents are concerned, you know, that the guidelines are not something that they feel comfortable with. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had a lot of families who I think just kind of got into a routine
Yep.
of driving their students, you know, particularly at the elementary level or even the middle school level, all school year. And we still have a significant number of parents that are dropping off and picking up after hours. So I think that's kind of an anomaly. I don't see that happening in a regular year. But that is, you know, still happening. To your question about, you know, kind of where we're at and where we're going, honestly, it is changing on a regular basis.
I know.
We're kind of, right now, even, you know, I wasn't anticipating the governor's press conference yesterday with
Right.
changes and whatnot. I did actually just message to the principals and admin today. I just, for the time being, want to hold with what we're currently doing
Right.
at the schools because we're going to have a DESI call tomorrow. So even though the governor makes a statement or changes things, we need to see what the DESI regs are going to be. We've got to work out internally, like what that's going to mean to us operationally as far as, you know, if you don't have masks on outside and close contact definitions and all of that information. So I asked the schools to just hold for the week so that I could really get to the bottom of what was going to be happening. We have a DESI call tomorrow, hoping to meet with Sue from the Board of Health on Thursday and just kind of wrap our heads around this so that on Friday in the newsletter, we can kind of talk about exactly what this latest information is, if we're going to be making any changes or how we're going to accommodate that, be able to do that so that everyone has a district-wide message on that. And then, you know, as of Monday, you know, we would implement something if there were going to be a change. So that was the direction that I had given the schools, and I really just need a couple days to be able to kind of catch up
Sure.
with the different announcements of where they're coming from. So for the next couple of days, you know, obviously nothing has changed indoors. Everyone still has masks on at all times. And outdoors, we're still having the masks on until I can really kind of wrap my head around that. I think the thing that's in play for all practical purposes is when you're out at recess or you're out at phys ed, you know, do you have to keep your mask on? And that seems to be the guidance saying no. Again, I've just got to figure out how we would then have to handle, say, a close contact or something along those lines if someone did have them. So that's what I'm working through this week. And I just ask for, you know, parents and staff's patience to be able to do that and to allow us to put out like a district-wide kind of directive on that.
With regards to transportation, I agree. I think we have to move forward in anticipation that ridership will be back to normal. or in terms of parents, accessing a bus pass. I mean, I'm sorry, but I would rather refund the money than not have an accurate count going into the school year. I know that's a lot of work for you guys, but I think on the flip side, it could be a lot more work if we're not prepared up front.
And if we're refunding money, we have a whole lot of other.
There's a bigger issue.
There's bigger
on
issues.
if
than-
we're-
Oh,
than
absolutely,
health-
100%,
right, that means health
absolutely.
fund,
But
right.
it's easier, do you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be easier to refund the money, I think it is, than to put bus routes and buses and everything in place after the fact, because.
We have to be able to figure out who wants to take the bus, because again, like, I'm assuming if we go back to normal, most people are gonna wanna do that. There could be an element that didn't mind picking up and dropping off their child either. So if we're gonna make efficient routes over the course of the summer, we really do need to go through the motions and have people do the riding. Again, what I personally think at this point is we likely could still have masks on the buses. Again, we've been trying to limit how many kids are on seats and staggering them. I don't think that's gonna be realistic for the fall, if we go back to normal. Sometimes you would actually see at the elementary level, just because of the size. You might see 3 little kids sitting on a bench together. It's probably gonna be 2. I don't see us squeezing the third on. And what we're gonna have to do is tell parents at some point, again, I just don't see it happening until late July or August, exactly, what we're gonna be operating. And then help them make the choice. If they're not comfortable with 2 children sitting on a seat next to each other and not staggering, then that may be a decision that they might want to make, that they don't want to take transportation. But I think we have to start collecting the data, and we have to just be assuming that we're going back to as normal as a regular year can be, and make modifications as we go. Just keep the community informed with the decisions we're making, and then adjust on the fly if we have to.
Any other questions on the fees? No. Hey, Don, could you take a motion?
Sure. I make a motion to approve the 2021 to 2022 bus transportation fees as presented.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 5-0. Great.
Thank you. Yep, so we'll get these posted, we'll start communications out to families, and we'll get our website updated, and we'll begin that process. Great. Next item on the agenda this evening, I'm going to ask Assistant Superintendent Hirsch to just talk through, a few people had asked about Chelmsford High School seniors and activities and events, and kind of what's planned and dates. Do you mind walking us through that?
Sure, no problem. So a couple of school committee meetings ago, we just talked about the tentative plans, and there were a couple of outstanding items. But this Friday actually marks the last full day of school for seniors at Chelmsford before they go into their senior final week, which is amazing. I can't even believe we're talking about this at this point. So there's a lot of buzz happening at the high school, and kids are getting ready to have a little bit of fun after they study hard for those finals and do very well on them. So what's happening is it's going to be a couple of nights for different things that are happening with the senior class. So on June 1st, there's 2 things that are going to be happening. First, all students are going to be able to do like their student parade, right? So that's the whole graduating class. They can all participate. And then half of them will go to Kimball's to have, a little bit of fun. It's not a prom, but it's their time to go out and, enjoy being together. And then the second night for the second half of the class would be June 2nd, both at Kimball's. And the way it was explained to me was the students had put together kind of groupings of who they wanted to go with, who they wanted to sit with. So it's not just alphabetical order, we're cutting you in half, this half goes, this half goes. They're going to put the students together based on, teams of people that they had asked to be with. So the student council reps and obviously the class officers have been working very, very hard this week it's almost like doing a wedding, right? You're trying to put who's going to what table. So those kids have been working, double time at this point, just making sure that they're accommodating everybody and that those kids can have, at least be with their friend group when they go to Kimball's. So that will be happening 2 nights in a row. Let's hope for some very nice weather for them. And then they're going to have their graduation rehearsal together. They're going to be on the CHS Plateau. So normally our graduations have been moved to the Songus Arena. Now we're back on the field. So the students do actually have to practice what it's like to walk out onto that field. and having been in some of those, and Jeff can attest as well, it's not just a cut and dry walk in. You do kind of like this looping thing, so they're going to practice that whole process and keep the distancing that we have for requirements for them. So June 4th, they'll be working on that, and then they're going to go into their barbecue. And Steve Murray and the class officers and also the class advisors been working closely with the Board of Health about this barbecue. So Sue Rosa has put her blessing on it. They're just waiting for the proper paperwork and to finalize it. So it says tentative now, just because you need the paperwork. And then the big graduation day, so June 5th. So interestingly enough, the rain date is the same day, right? So it's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of vying for outdoor staging, seating, everything else out there from most high schools. So we're hoping for the best. We're going to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And hopefully have the graduation first thing in the morning. But if there is inclement weather, we're going to see, like, sometimes it can be pouring in the morning, not in the afternoon. So again, we're going to do a lot of hoping that we have some great weather and that we can have the actual graduation. Otherwise, it's going to have to be rain or shine at this point. I know that Steve Murray and Beth Rick has also been trying to get a hold of the Songus, that if any of these regulations have changed, if they can be a backup at some point, but they're governed by a different body, and they're still at the 6 feet distancing. And I can attest to that. I just went to a graduation for UMass Lowell last week, and they had everybody at 6 feet. So even though we're at 3 feet in the schools and the changes in the CDC, the Songus Arena has not changed their requirements of 6 feet distancing. So some schools that are using the Songus have to do it over either the full day and have 4 different sessions or 4 different nights in order to hold a graduation there. I know the arena seems big, but it isn't as big as you think. So we're still working on, backup plans for any inclement weather that they're willing to, help out with, but they have regulations as well. And then for the graduation, though, that will be on the field, each of the students have 3 guests that they can bring. And it is going to be general seating, but marked off, and they're going to be placing some staff members at the end of each of the aisles, and they'll be using both the home and the away side. And they'll put staff members at the end of the aisles to help people just make sure that they're staying distance, that they're not trying to push too close to the stage, because you can see that happening. But a couple of things is the students are going to be going the long way on the football field, so from end zone to end zone. So they should be able to have a good view regardless of their seating area, because the students are going to be so spread out. Plus, like I said, there's that parading process where they go both sides. They're going to be going through, so parents will be able to, get a picture of them walking with their classmates and, some of that fun stuff. And that's about it. But the biggest thing is no high heels or pointed heels are allowed on that turf field. So block shoes, wedges, that's perfect. No pointy shoes.
Linda has to keep reminding me of that.
I know.
I don't know what she
Just want to make
expects.
sure. Very important.
Any questions on senior events? Just cross our fingers for good weather. And
Yeah, hoping for
It's
good
going to be
weather.
great. It's
first,
going to be
second,
great
third
weather.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like a wedding if it rains.
Yeah.
Thank you to Principal Murray and his staff for putting something together that, gives a chance for, a little bit more normalcy, certainly than the graduates from last year had, so.
Yeah.
I spoke to a parent of a senior, and she said the seniors are so thrilled with this, that they actually have, activities that they can do together. Especially, I always felt senior week, beside graduation, the best event was the senior banquet.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to do it, because originally they were talking 3 different groups.
Right.
And now that they're able to do it too, it's not the same thing that everyone's together, but it's still, much better than last year. So this is, a lot of praise, because I know how much goes into setting all this up, that the administration, everyone at the high school have done a really nice job, along with student council and PTO helping out.
Yeah, those
So,
kids have been working, and they're very, very organized.
yeah, class reps work really hard,
Mm-hmm.
and officers.
All right, anything else? Okay, great, thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Next item on the agenda this evening is the annual vote to appoint a representative to the Valley Collaborative Board of Directors. This is something that I've actually done since I've been here. I very much enjoy being the rep to this group, so I would be happy to be reappointed again for another term. Again, this would be from July 1 to June 30, 2022.
Want to just make the motion on this
Yep.
one? Yeah, I make a motion to appoint Dr. Jay Lang as a board member on the Valley Collaborative for FY22.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? Aye. All right, good luck.
Thank you. I'll report back. We actually have our annual reports coming out, I think, for the next meeting, so they do a lot of good work. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy to serve on that group and work with some, all of our other local superintendents and Chris Scott and her staff, so I really do enjoy it.
You're gonna be able to go back to live meetings there? Or?
We're gonna try the June one live.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because we've been remote the whole
Yeah.
time, so we really want to be able to recognize some of the students who are gonna be leaving the program, and also some of the staff who are retiring, so we're really trying to get back in person for that June meeting.
All right.
Great. Next item I had on the agenda this evening was just the, kind of the protocols we put together for looking at in-person public participation at our meetings going forward.
Yeah.
So turn that over to you.
Yeah, so, you know, we were talking about, you know, partly because of difficulty with the technology and all that, allowing for in-person public participation, so, sat down with superintendent, we kind of tried to put together a general procedure for people to follow if they were going to come to speak, at the beginning of our meeting. Of course, all of this was before the latest, but I think it's still, you know, if anything, it's extra cautious, in terms of, you know, the procedure itself and making sure to sanitize and keep your masks on and all that stuff. So if everybody's comfortable with that, I don't know if you get a chance to talk to Sue on
We're
this
gonna
one.
meet Thursday.
Okay, but if everybody's
I think
comfortable
she
with
will
this-
be.
Yeah. Maybe we could start at our June meetings and try it out and see if you know, if people want to come in and participate publicly or in person. That might be something we try out. So.
This is a good step, you know what I'm saying, to
I think so.
returning to more traditional.
Normalcy, yeah,
Yeah.
quote unquote, yeah.
So sick of that word, but yes,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, just I think it's a good step, and I, you know, in the right direction. So.
Right.
Be good to see people in the room.
Was that?
See people in the room.
Yeah, we'll set up, you know, a socially distanced area and a speaking area and all that, and if we're gonna do it, we'll come up with some sort of thing for the agenda for people to let you know, and then you'll email the
Yeah, what I'll
procedure.
end up probably do, I'll clean this up and put it on letterhead, and then when we post our agenda, I'll actually just post the guidelines
Yeah.
with it, because I won't expect people to go look and say like our policy manual, but it'll be posted right with the agenda. And then they can just reach out to me the day before. If there were 3 or 4 speakers, we can kind of figure out a time slot for them, just so that they're not
Right.
sitting on top of each other, and then arrange to have them come in and make their statements. So I think that'd be good.
So, any tweaks anybody wants to make to this? Everybody comfortable with the way it's written up?
Good.
Okay. Great, so
Yeah, I
we'll-
think we should just try it out. You know, I mean, we may
Yeah.
find some
Yeah.
things work better, and if we have to make some tweaks, but I think this is a good starting point.
All right. So I don't think we need a vote, we just adopt this as a
Yeah, as long as you guys are all in agreement.
Yeah,
with it, I
Everybody's
think
good,
it's
so,
fine.
okay, great. And if perchance the Board of Health doesn't
Yeah,
like it,
or if
let
there's
us know.
any other feedback, I'll reach back out to you.
Yeah, and let us
But
know.
I do think this is a step in the right direction, because it is going to start to move more towards getting back in person for meetings and things along those lines. I think actually after June 15th, where the governor's lifting the state of emergency, I think that's actually going to kind of trump the different emergency orders that were in place around public meetings, and we may have to actually provide for that anyway. So I think this is a good step in that direction, because it'll be getting us set up so that it won't be such a big adjustment.
Yep, great.
Will we be able to still have, be able to have, like, local decision-making? You know, let's say the emergency is lifted. Do we,
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, that'll be, we could talk to the clerk's office or even council if we had to. I don't know at that point.
okay.
We'll have to see. I think we could probably always put like precautions on. I know they're like allowing for individual groups to decide, do they want to still require masks and distancing and things like that. I think that would be in our purview, but I don't know if we could actually exclude someone from coming to, physically to a public meeting after that point. But I know it'll be a hot topic, so I'll follow that over the next couple of days and weeks and let you know.
Thank you.
All right, great. So we'll try that next meeting.
Yep, we'll get that out.
Yep.
Item number 7 is just your draft school committee meeting schedule for the next fiscal year, beginning in July and running right through June. It's traditional in July, just because of the end of the fiscal year, we typically don't meet that first week in July. We meet the 3rd, and at that point in time, some meetings we've actually bumped it to the 4th, depending on where we're at financially with all of our end of the year budgets and whatnot. But then you'll notice everything else is basically the 1st and 3rd Monday of the month. February is actually interesting this year. It actually kind of just fell properly. We didn't have to
I
move
was gonna
February
ask,
vacation.
I thought that was February break, actually.
No, it's late this year.
Yeah,
It's the week
wow.
after.
Okay,
So that worked out. April, we did end up moving for the reorg meeting. And then I had to work around April school vacation week, but we still have the 2 weeks in between, so it really worked out nicely. So this, again, just for your review. If you approve it, we'll get it posted to the website. We'll notify telemedia, and we'll get all these meetings queued up on our district calendar.
We'll take a motion, yeah?
Motion. I make a motion to approve the Chelmsford Public Schools School Committee meeting schedule from fiscal year July 2021 through June 2022.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
just through the summer, because it looks like we have, what, maybe, counting the 7th of September, 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings, that, we leave the option open, as we always have, that if we have to meet more frequently, we will, because,
Oh, you can.
yeah, I know.
You can always add a
Yeah.
meeting. These are just kind of
I
like.
just want people to understand that, if we have to add meetings, we
Right,
will.
right.
Because I don't have any idea what the summer's gonna bring, so,
No, but none of
know.
us do.
yeah,
These are just kind of like your business meetings.
Right.
That we would post to be able to conduct like our regular order.
right,
But last summer, we had to add different meetings as well,
Right.
and we could find ourselves having to do that again.
okay,
You can add or subtract, but this at least kind of just sets a framework, even for like when we're trying to develop
Yes.
different like actions that have to take place, to be able to do that.
yeah, absolutely, I just want people watching to understand it.
Right. If we
We're
want to
not
add
gonna-
a
yeah, if
workshop
we
or
need
something
to
like that,
add
we can do
more,
that
right,
too,
we're gonna
right?
do that.
We talked about that,
Right.
maybe doing a workshop for summer, we can always add that in.
Right,
All right, so do we take a vote yet? No, we didn't. Okay, so we have a motion, and a second. All in favor of approval? Aye. Okay, 5-0.
Next was just your liaison assignments?
Yeah, liaison assignment, so, I didn't make many changes, nobody really, I had one little change, but for the most part, people seem to be happy with what their liaison assignments were, so I didn't really make any changes to the negotiations of subcommittees. The one switch I did, Donna and I switched for, CPAC and Council of Schools, so that was the one change there that Donna and I made. Other than that, it's pretty much the same assignments as before. I mean, if now in retrospect, people look and say, oh, I kind of wanted to switch to something else, let me know, and it's still fluid. And it's, these are for this next year coming up, so you're, finish out your PTO meetings for this year with your schools, and actually, it's gonna be the same school, so, but whatever your liaison assignments are, and then next year. So, Maria?
What were the changes?
Just, Donna and I switched. I had council schools, and she had CPAC, and we made a switch there. So I have CPAC, and she has council schools.
Okay.
And other than that, I didn't really switch anything, because nobody else had a request. And as I mentioned, we are gonna be getting into the negotiations, so those subcommittees are definitely gonna be, in operation starting in January, I think, as far as that's concerned. All right, so everybody good with those? Okay. Again, if you go home and say, I really wish I'd like to do this one instead, let me know, and we can always switch some stuff up. All right, and then the other one is the warrant signing. Good. Joanne, if you wanna?
Yep.
Yep, so this is just a chart by month, who we would recommend of the 3 members to come in and sign the accounts payable warrant. And it's every other Friday, and we tried to even it out so everyone signs 7 or 8 times a year.
So,
you have to teach us how to do that again.
yeah, so we've gone to the single signage because, wanted to limit the amount of people going to the office, but, I think it'd be good if we could get back to the 3 people going in and signing, and I don't think we have to, we don't really need to make a change to the policy, it's just that we have that as an option if we need.
It's an option if you want to exercise it.
Right.
But it's almost like the more the merrier on the warrant signing, so if 3 can come in, that'd be ideal.
Right.
But if by chance, let's say 2 ever came
Right.
in, you're still covering yourself, so we're not gonna have to scramble around and get signatures.
Right. So is everybody okay with that, going back to 3?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And,
And thank you for doing it
Yeah,
over the
no,
last year.
problem.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah.
well, this is July is the time you really have to, we're changing over from one
Oh, yeah.
fiscal year to the other fiscal year, so.
Forgot about
It'd be
that.
great to have, multiple eyes on it, so. Not that Joanna does a great job, her office does a great job, but, just good to be reassured that, other people are looking at it too, so. All right, so we'll go with that. I don't think we have to do anything as far as approval in that. Last thing's personnel report.
Yeah, just the personnel report for the month of April for you. You'll notice we did hire a number of different interim positions to kind of help us through the rest of the school year when our elementary schools in particular, or a couple of middle schools, were going back to full-time. So we had a few different paras and lunch and recess aides on board to help us out. A couple of permanent hires as well. But this is just a detailed report of all the personnel actions that happened during the month of April.
How's hiring going for open positions?
Really well,
Yeah.
overall, yeah. We're really trying to kind of tackle all the professional positions right now, so all the open administrator and teaching positions. Usually around June 1st is when we'll take a look at all the different support personnel positions, because special ed will be going through the process of figuring out which students are moving up grade levels, or if you're transferring, say, from an elementary school to a middle school, to look at our FTEs to make sure that we have enough paras to support the students either coming or going. CHIPS is very involved because obviously the students going up from preschool to kindergarten, some have paras, some don't. We have to work that all through. That kind of takes place during the month of June. But if we really get the most of our teaching hiring all done prior to then, which looks like we're on target, then we can really close the school year off strong and focus the summer months for all the support personnel. So I think we're in good shape on that front.
We doing anything for our retirees?
Yes, I will have just a little memo for you in the next meeting's packet. But in talking to the union and also the schools, we're going to do school-based, like we did last year, school-based retirement parties for right now. Because, again, we just didn't know what was going to happen spatially, or how many people we could get in a room. And then the union would like to actually, and we're going to work with them, early next fall, probably on or around October 1st, to do a bigger in-person retirement party for the 2 years. So we would invite all the retirees from last year as well as this year and their families and guests for a bigger reception. So that would be something similar to we've done at the Radisson in the past. We'll find a nice venue to hold a bigger celebration in the fall to honor both groups. But for right now, schools are going to do their own individual retirement parties before the people leave at the end of the school year.
Could you do us a favor and give us a list of what the dates are for those, in case, we can stop by?
Yep. Let me find out.
We're going to put that on the agenda for next time anyway, so we have the dates for that.
Yes, yeah, just, especially
Yeah.
with schools we've been working with.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'll find out for you. If there's a little itinerary or what they plan to do, I'll put as much in as I can.
Thank you.
Other question, personnel, Maria?
In terms of the planning and the hiring and so on, we're going under the assumption that the full 20% that are now fully remote are returning.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, we know from all the guidance even to date, and this has been pretty consistent, that districts are not really going to be offering a remote option for the fall.
Right.
So we have to assume, again, everyone is going to be back in person, which also means our staffing are all going to be back in person. Even the few that we still have left that are in remote assignments for the year are going to need to come back in person because all the students will be coming back in person. So we're going to prepare our buildings for a full in-person return. Again, we're down to the 3-foot distancing in rooms now, and I think for the most part, we're doing okay with that. It is very difficult, as Principal Aslan talked about, lunches. So when you don't have masks on right now and you have to maintain 6-foot distancing, that is very difficult. It really kind of puts a kink in the whole schedule of the schools because we have to offer extra lunch sessions because we can't fit the normal number of people we would in, say, a cafeteria for lunch. So we've taken over gyms and cafes, and it's very complicated. So we are going to have to watch that for the fall and just see what that guidance is going to end up being. But we're preparing as if we're going to be full-time in person with all staff and students back for the fall.
And how about registration for K? Where are we in those numbers? Can you provide
We
some
look at them
report?
often. Yes, I can give you an update if you'd like at the next meeting as well. We had our April registration, which wasn't as big as I thought it would have been. But we have those numbers, and then we still have people that just come in on a day-to-day basis and register. I can put that in the list for you
Okay.
next meeting. We're already starting to look to see if we need to add an extra section here or there, just to help on the numbers. I'll give that update to you next time if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
I think in July, though, we should probably talk about the remote option, and what I mean by that is remote's never going away. There's going to be certain circumstances, snow days, things like this, that people are already talking about that it may be utilized. So, thinking about, I don't know if we have students that are out on an 11AB or, something like that, if that's an option now, remoting in or something like that.
Are they
but-
talking about that at the state level?
I haven't heard anything, but I'm thinking that, it certainly has changed the way that we do things this year, for some students. And, it may be something that's going to remain out there as an option for some kids who remote learning ended up being tremendously successful for.
I get the feeling that Desi wasn't a big fan of remote.
Yeah, that's.
And I'm not talking about huge numbers. I'm
Yeah, no, but I'm just
talking
saying, I didn't think,
I mean, I'll be curious, to be honest with you, even when it's all said and done, if they're even gonna wanna entertain a remote snow day.
Okay.
Because that was something the commission was actually against. We had no say in it this year, we had to. But I don't even know if that'll survive, this, but we'll be watching that as it goes.
All right.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple of more virtual schools, start to pop up statewide, because there has been some students who have been
right.
really, well-served and performed very well with the
Right.
remote. I don't know if it will be like every district kind of having their own little remote
Okay.
program, but
And
you
the state
might,
has has a virtual school, correct?
too.
too,
Okay.
yeah.
But I'm just, again, I think that could expand potentially. You might even see some regional type remote options come up. I just don't know if it'll be driven by individual districts. That's something we're gonna have to kind of wait and see.
All right.
We always have students, say, for a medical or some kind of
Right,
reason, who
right.
can't be in attendance. I
Right.
think that's still gonna have to go through whatever the normal, medical process, 504
Right.
type process would be. That's never gonna go away.
Right.
I just don't know to what extent the remote option would be.
Okay. I think it's just something that we should maybe keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah,
For lack of a
absolutely.
better way to put it. That's why I said July, because I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna touch on it.
You're an optimistic.
I think they're gonna say something about it.
Whenever the guidance comes,
know.
yeah. I agree.
But,
All right, anything else on personnel? Okay, any liaison reports anybody has? Maria?
So, Harrington met, the PTO. The good news, I mentioned with Rob. They've elected a new board, and they have every position full. Their co-presidents are Amanda Collison and Deborah King. Their co-vice presidents are Allison Kenny and Jess Fraser. The co-secretaries are Jen Kibbe and Andrea Connolly. And their co-treasurers are Kate O'Malley and Roberta Andrea. And their biggest thing on their agenda was the planning for the fourth grade and what they're doing for the end of the year. McCarthy also met, and that PTO, the focus again was on what's going to happen in terms of offices for the coming year. And they also have their scholarship that's going to be chosen and so on. So that was the focus of that, and we had a principal's report, and there wasn't much else going on at that meeting for this end of the year. ELL had a paint night for their end of the year, which I was not able to attend, but I saw it tremendously successful, and there were a lot of people, and I think your office helped with the, getting things together and helping out and so on. So that was really quite amazing. And that is it. Wellness. How can I forget the Wellness Committee? I can't. Okay, we met. The policy has been run by Desi in its final draft, and there's some very good news on it, but the committee would like a little time to present the final policy at one of our meetings, just a few minutes, and whoever can attend would come, and then we'd need to adopt that policy, so we'll have to go through that. This coming year, we may have our mentor again for the implementation of the policy, which is, of course, policies are only as good as their implementation, and that will be the next thing for this coming year.
Do you think they'll be will they be ready for our June meeting, or is this more like
I think
July,
it's gonna
August?
be ready for our June meeting, if
So
you
just let me
can.
know.
I'll pass it right along to
Okay.
you
Yep.
for the next agenda, if that's okay. And that committee worked hard and met regularly. Everybody came. And it would be Dr. McMahon's last Wellness Committee meeting. So if she can come and present, that would be terrific.
All right, any other, John?
Just real quick, Parker is having its PTO meeting Thursday, so I'll have one for the next meeting.
Anybody else?
we did not have an Chelmsford a cappella meeting last week, but I believe that Thursday is finished fourth. And is that correct? Does anybody know? In their competition, I believe it was last week.
The Thursday's finished for?
It's, yeah, I think, I don't want to quote you on that.
Yeah, I don't want, for some reason, fourth is, it was really.
Like it's fourth, but I don't want, I'll double check.
Thank you. I was just trying to look it up, actually, but I do want to say this. I did have a chance to watch the competition, and it was, all of the groups were outstanding, but in particular, the Thursdays just did a tremendous job. So that was the, I believe it was the Nationals,
Yeah, it's the IC.
ICHSA competition, which had to be videotaped. And then that was how they did all of the groups this year. And they just did just an excellent, excellent job. Anybody should just take a look at the performance. It was excellent.
Right, I just want to mention council schools meeting tomorrow. They do need a quorum because they're going to be voting in a new board, so every PTO is asked to send 3 reps for the meeting, and they'll be meeting at 7 o'clock, and that's a virtual meeting as well. All right, any new items?
Do we have Bill Silver come in and figure out the video thing? Just say it. We had that as an agenda item? We're just gonna.
Yeah, I'll work with him. I honestly don't know where the issue is coming from at this point, if it was an internet thing or if it was a connection issue again between
That was
telemedia.
working when you
I'm
first
just
came
giving you a
in.
hard time. You don't have to get all defensive about it.
No, I'm
Well,
saying
yeah.
it was, we
It
tested
was
it
working
right
before the
before
meeting
you walked
started, so
in.
maybe when telemedia tries to use.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
don't
I'm-
know what
It
the,
must just.
Yeah.
It's that was a buffering issue.
Yeah, so,
but yes, we are gonna continue to try to have video that doesn't skip.
all right, any other new items? I just want to I sent along, the superintendent, I just put a list of things that we need to get done by the end of the week, the end of the year. So, yeah,
Wow.
some of the things, some of the things happen to be, retirees, and actually, what was you brought up, the, I can't remember. But
Lots of
something you brought
things.
up was also on the list,
The
oh,
kindergarten
the
numbers.
kindergarten enrollments. So take a look at that list if you think there are other things that we need to get done before the end of this school year, in the next 2 June meetings, just let me know, and we can add those to the list, and we'll try to, get some of the items done in the first meeting, some of the items done in the second meeting. So that's there if you have any comments on that. All right, anybody have any other public comment that they received or want to share?
I didn't get any.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't get any.
Okay. All right, so we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much.